Welcome to Brownsville at Large, the podcast where we highlight the people, projects, and possibilities shaping the future of our city. I'm your host, Commissioner Tino Villarreal. In this episode, we're joined by Gilbert Salinas, a nationally recognized economic developer and executive director of GBIC. With over 18 years of experience, Gilbert is leading the industrial growth of our city. We'll discuss GBIC's initiatives, including the development of the greater Brownsville Tech District, North Brownsville Industrial Park, and how these projects are driving the innovation and creation of our city. GBIC is reshaping how Brownsville grows. Gilbert, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us here.
So let me give you a quick snapshot. Things you know, things the viewers may know, but important to mention. Where are we currently in Brownsville as far as economic development, job growth? I have some facts, some statistics. I know that GBIC, the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation, we're about to dive in for people who don't know what GBIC is. They should, but let's say they don't, has invested $1.29 million in job training. You guys are developing close to 90 acres in the Brownsville Tech Industrial Park. Major incoming projects of over $100 million of investment from SpaceX one-tier supplier that's producing 90 plus high-paying jobs. There are 3 additional GBIC projects in the pipeline, close to $300 million there. Brownsville currently is 200,000 residents. We are the largest city in the Rio Grande Valley. We've been named #1 metro in the United States for investment, and we're an economic emerging hotspot. And the Brownsville-Harlingen Metro is the fastest growing in Texas for job growth. We are one of the top 5 cities in the country that people want to move to. How about that for economic development, Gilbert?
You know, Commissioner, you must be looking at my cheat sheets because you got you hit all the numbers as far as the growth of the city, the community, the region, everything that we're working on. And it's, best way I can put that is in 2 words. It's no accident. The growth that we're seeing here in the Brownsville area, it didn't just happen overnight. There is a ton of work, a lot of concrete that was laid for that foundation, a lot of different stakeholders, community, business leaders that worked on this going back 10, 15 years ago. So what we're seeing today is a result of what happened back then. I'll give you a quick little snapshot of the thinking in 2011 when we started working a small little project by the name of Space Exploration Technologies, which is SpaceX. And, you know, we get the phone call and you know, the company that's looking to manufacture rockets and you know, we're talking to the governor's office. And within a couple of weeks, we're already meeting with Elon Musk himself at Hawthorne, California, which is used to be the headquarters for SpaceX. So we're there, we're talking with him, and there's one thing that he did, and obviously he's very good at what he does. And what he did was, with a very broad stroke of the brush, he just painted the vision of what he could potentially do as far as a rocket manufacturing facility and a launch site. This is 2011. Crazy idea back then, because when we thought about space, you know, the space shuttle was still flying. When we thought about world-changing ideas, we were on our edges of our seat waiting for Steve Jobs to tell us what that was. He was still alive back then. I remember Occupy Wall Street, when we were meeting with Elon himself. Within 2 weeks, you know, after that meeting, Occupy Wall Street happened. Hence, that's why you see SpaceX with Occupy Mars. So, and Brownsville was very different back then. It was a somewhat of a manufacturing town, but more on the logistics side. And we're still very, very tied to the Mexican economy back then. So that was a first step in really trying to get Brownsville now to become the center of activity as it pertained to manufacturing. That project, you know, back then, I mean, it took us 5 years to really push that project through. And then within 6 months of working that project, then somebody knocks on our door talking about an LNG plant. And we didn't know, like rocket science, we had no idea what LNGs were. And then there was another company that came in. Then at one point there was three companies coming in to set up an LNG operation. And I still remember the conversation with them. They said, well, it's going to be 5 years for environmentals, another 5 years for this, for that, for permitting. So we're about 10 years out before we build our first plant. And I was like, it's like, what are we doing here, right? That's 10 years out. And then a lot of people don't know that we actually had two other space companies looking at us. So back then it was very similar to today. It was just an exciting time to be on that forefront, piggybacking off of the vision that these companies had. So we started creating our own vision back then, which was 10, maybe 15 years from now, this it has a potential to be the new space city. So this 10 years from now, what we're seeing today here in the Brownsville area has the potential to be a hub very similar to what you see, San Antonio's known for tourism and manufacturing. Austin, tech, it's another Silicon Valley. Um, DFW area, finance. Houston is energy. Brownsville has that vibe that, Silicon Valley had, San Francisco had in the 1960s before it became Silicon Valley. Austin in the 80s and 90s before it became what it is today. We have that vibe. Not too sure what it is yet, but I mean, with everything that you said that's happening, I mean, we see it, we feel it. And us putting it together and helping develop that vision, we're now becoming a hub for space, energy, tech, and AI.
We'll talk about like a phenomenal ecosystem, right? That's exactly the point. Everything you said, I've had the opportunity and luxury of bringing some members down from DARPA,
Mm-hmm.
from all over the country, and they feel it too.
Mm-hmm.
They're down here, they take a tour, they've toured Brownsville, they've toured the port, they've toured everything that we have to offer, and they go, there's something special happening right now in Brownsville. There's something very special. We can't really put our thumb on it. But the reason I wanted you on the show is because I really value the work that the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation is doing. And I think that you guys are on the cusp of really propelling the growth that we're talking about and setting us up for the next 10 to 15 years. We're going to dive into some of those things, especially like I said, that tech district that you guys are looking at, the industrial parks. I mean, there's so many things happening in your neck of the woods. But for all our viewers and people that are watching on the show all over the world, what is GBIC? What does it do for Brownsville?
All right.
Let's start basic.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation, we are let me take it a step back. I'm thinking here. One of the hardest things that I ever have to do, in addition to just working these deals, a deal of a lifetime that I like to call, the SpaceXs, working with the LNGs, some of the other projects that we have in the pipeline. One of the hardest things I have to do sometimes is explain to a room full of third graders on career day what I do, which is economic development.
Sure.
My wife, she just retired. She's a teacher. So, I would get pulled into career day. It's extremely hard to explain that, especially when I'm standing next to a fireman or a policeman or God forbid, there's somebody from the zoo with some animal. How do I compete with that? So what we do is we foster the growth of our respective community, which in this case is Brownsville, Texas. Mm-hmm. That's our job, foster the growth. The strategy that we use to foster the local economic growth is primary jobs and capital investment. So that is companies that come in and create the primary jobs. Primary jobs tend to be tied to manufacturing because since World War II, manufacturing has continued and has been and continues to be the one sector that creates the most the biggest, most significant economic impact of any particular sector because it's in alignment with tech, with innovation, and with the capital growth. So manufacturing continues to be the core of the growth of any particular community because of its broad economic impact. So we are tasked to do that as a Type A entity, which by state statute, we receive sales tax revenue funds from the state, which means is for a person, whether the person's from Brownsville or not, a visitor that comes into Brownsville, spends X amount of money. For every dollar that they spent, we get a quarter of a cent of that dollar that they spent here in Brownsville, specifically for economic developments and designed by state statute for the recruitment of industry to spur our local economy. Texas and Brownsville was very forward thinking in the late 80s, early 1990s in developing this mechanism, which we use to recruit companies. Now, fostering the growth of companies, and we do that through primary jobs, capital investment. That's the strategy. And the tactics that we use is marketing, placement selling, and deal making. Marketing, we have to be able to market this area. Placement selling is we're actually out there. You know, I hate to say this, but we're salespeople. At the end of the day, that's what we do.
You sell Brownsville.
We sell Brownsville.
You sell the future. You paint it of what it can be. I'll tell you what, I heard that you guys were like all over the place. Germany, all over Mexico. I mean, you're out there selling. So in a third grade class, you know, in just very basic stuff, you say, what is GBIC? I would say we help bring more jobs to Brownsville. We sell the vision and we try to bring the people that can provide a better quality of life for all of us, right? I mean,
thank you. That's
ultimately,
in a
no,
nutshell.
we're trying to just bring some people in here. We're trying to bring some companies that can bring some good paying jobs so that our kids have a future and they don't have to tell you, Gilbert or Commissioner, I want to study here, but you know, there's nothing here for me after I graduate from college. I don't have anything.
And
here.
that used to be the case.
Well, I get,
that
and
used to be the case a while back.
That's still the case in some that are uninformed.
Yeah.
And then they start figuring out, wait, how much is a starting job at SpaceX, or how much is a starting job at LNG? Or wait, you're bringing who? GBIC, what are you doing here? And so now we're giving our kids in the future hope.
Exactly.
Hope of what? Not just that Brownsville's catching up, but that Brownsville's going to be a leader in the world as far as the new ecosystem of AI, quantum, all the things that we can't even dream of. Just like you shared the story of 2011, we couldn't dream of there was going to be a rocket launched right here in our backyard. Now we've seen multiple flights.
And you know what I like about that is SpaceX told us this years ago. We're going to get to the point where people are just going to get used to the launches. And we're starting to see it now. People are kind of like, oh, yeah.
I missed it.
Yeah, there was a rocket launch today, I think, or something.
People come from all over the world to come see a launch, and people in Brownsville go, oh, yeah, I think there was a launch. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they don't even make a big deal about it. Just like the first, second, third flight, everybody took that moment to say, I can't wait. I'm going to run outside when I feel the earth shaking. I got to see it. Now it's become second nature.
And SpaceX warned us about that. The impact that we're going to have is XYZ. Yeah. But it is going to get to a point where people are going to take it for granted. And we're like, that's crazy. This is rocket science. Why would people take it for granted?
It's like living in a big city.
But it's happening.
It's like living in a big city.
Yeah.
I used to live in Austin. I took the capital for granted.
Yeah.
Now I go, and every time I go down Congress, I'm in awe of the building. And when I lived there, I could care less that there was a massive structure there.
You're a fellow Longhorn?
Yes, I took some. You love the Longhorns?
Well, I graduated from there. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em horns. So let's go to, I'm a company. I want to consider a move to Brownsville. Okay. Why do you think companies are starting to choose Brownsville over other markets?
Okay. Good question. So years ago, not that long ago, about 10 years ago, we wouldn't do this. We wouldn't promote, the Brownsville area as such, but the companies that were coming here, let me take it back 20 to 30 years ago. The companies that were coming here were actually coming in to set up shop in Matamoros. And it's crazy because the EDC back then would help companies located in Matamoros so that we would get warehousing and logistics out of it on the Brownsville side, which worked back then. Back then it worked. Thousands of jobs created on the Matamoros side, and we get about dozens of jobs on the Brownsville side. Very different, strategy and very different community back then. Then about 10, 15 years ago, it was we started promoting this area as like it's a competitive area, so on and so forth. This is where you can manufacture and distribute around the world. And the companies that we're getting back then were companies that were interested in locating on the border. They needed to be in Mexico, but did not want to be in Mexico. They said, we just need to be here and
We need to be near Mexico.
Near Mexico.
Yeah.
And I hated this phrase, and the cheapest wages possible. And we didn't like that, but that was a game plan back then to try to get some of these companies in. Today, it's word of mouth, the power of word of mouth. That's been around for thousands of years and will continue to be around.
It's the most powerful marketing tactic of all time. I used to own restaurants. People say, what is the most powerful tool in marketing? Word of mouth. You have a good product, people tell other people, that's stronger than any ad that I could ever place.
Yeah. And I mean, so today it's other companies are helping us do our work now. Big brands, the SpaceXs, the LNG plants, the company that we just announced. Big fish are drawing other big fish. As a result of that, we've got, you said it, $2+ billion in our top 10 projects, with the potential to create almost 2,000 jobs. And out of those 10 projects, I would say easily we'll get 6 to 7 of those, maybe even 8 of those deals. We're getting those. And that is just a result of the success at these larger companies, global, game-changing companies. And other companies are like, well, if they're going to Brownsville,
if it's good enough for them, what am I missing here?
Exactly.
Right.
And that to us is when we're able to, go to a New York City, Dallas, Chicago, and walk into the boardroom of some of these Fortune 500 executives, Fortune 500 corporations, into their boardrooms with their high-level executives. And we walk in, and one of the first things that they say is, or ask us is, so, I just read in the Wall Street Journal about SpaceX doing this or some activity going down in your community. Tell us about that. Half of our work has already been done.
Absolutely.
And that's where we're at today. Not the case 10, and most definitely not the case 20, 30 years ago.
Like my dad, I'm going to give you my dad would say, ya no somos un ranchito.
ya no somos un ejido.
Ya no somos un ranchito.
Yeah.
Vamos creciendo.
And I'm going to tell you something, because I've heard some people complain about traffic here, and I'm like, you have no idea what traffic is, right? I just moved in from Central Texas, right? So I'm like, yeah, the traffic it's not bad. But now that I've been here 6 months back in this capacity, now I am complaining too, right? I'm like, why am I taking so long? Why am I taking 12 minutes to get to my to my work, which is nothing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, I got good news for you. So Brownsville has 90% of its street lights that are not synchronized, and we just approved a capital improvement program, and we're going to start synchronizing all the lights. And so when you start synchronizing lights, like big cities, you don't have to go when there's a storm or a power outage, you don't have to go manually and reconnect and sync every light. It synchronizes it. We're also becoming a private P5G city.
Okay.
So with all that new fiber that's coming in here, we're going to become a very catch up to your vision we're going to become a very technological advanced city from a
Mm-hmm.
city standpoint
Yeah.
where we synchronize our lights. That means traffic flow is easier. You'll feel a little bit less of that
Mm-hmm.
traffic, but more importantly, less wear on our roads.
Yeah.
That means that we use our property tax dollars more wisely and
Yeah.
investing in certain other roads. So there's a lot of good things happening to Brownsville. And before we get down to the nitty gritty,
Mm-hmm.
I know that the GBIC also helps. Um, you attract business, but you also help existing businesses grow,
Correct. Yeah. Mhm. So,
right?
eh, coming back to something that you said before I forget is, eh, and I think people will see that. Hopefully, they'll appreciate the fact that the lights are being synchronized. Eh, we're kind of like the canary in the mine in economic development. We're out there and we usually kind of see some of those economic indicators.
Mhm.
And I'm going to tell you right now, and for your viewership, I'll go back to Vicente Fox was in our community 2 weeks ago, piggybacking off of what he said. He used this example. He said, when he was president of Mexico, obviously he was instrumental in getting, I think it was a GM plant down to Guanajuato, his home state. And this was 25 years ago. And he said that one OEM, which in this case SpaceX is an OEM, original equipment manufacturer. Original equipment manufacturer, which means they're at the top of the food chain. When that OEM comes into your community, it brings in an additional 20 tier one suppliers, which are the small, not smaller, that much smaller, but, companies that are like 3 to 500, uh, people in operation in size. And then those tier ones will pull in tier twos, which are more. And then the tier twos pull in tier threes. And then you have your ancillary businesses, your vendors, some of the smaller suppliers that are pulling in after those. And then the ones that fill in the gaps are your entrepreneurs. And then come the small businesses. So that's the top of the food chain. And it took somebody, a president, a former president, to come into our city and say, coming back to the synchronized lights, is you all have no idea what that project and those other energy projects are going to do to your city. I mean, he said, I see it. You all have no idea what's going to happen. And he said, I don't mean it in a bad way. It's just the growth that's coming, it's coming. So you need to start bracing for impact and
Sure.
planning for that. So that is one example of what our leadership is now working on, because we're getting to see it. So us in economic development, I can tell you now, those projects that we have, those $2+ billion, does not include what's happening at the Port of Brownsville.
Sure.
So now coming back to that model with some of those the smaller businesses, those entrepreneurs, those service providers, and those vendors that follow that huge food chain that's being assembled right now. What we do is we help some of our local and existing industry. When a company comes into town, actually, I was just in Monterrey talking to pitching to some investors. Is when a company comes into town, and a prospect is we do the hand holding for you
Mhm.
to, it just depends to what degree, right?
Sure.
To come in and invest in our community. Then after that, we continue that process, not just for 6 months or 1 year, but for the life of your business, whatever that business cycle you're in. It could be 10, 20, 50 years. That is the core of economic development. It's called BRE, Business Retention and Expansion, helping our local businesses, our local industry. Well, you played football. I like to call BRE like the offensive lineman of football. It's a thankless job. There's no glory in it, but it's the core.
Yeah.
Without that offensive line, you're just not going to succeed,
Not
right?
gonna win games.
You're not going to win. And in economic development, which if you haven't gathered this, I'm borderline obsessed with going after deals, closing deals. I'm very competitive. In economic development, we're in the game of winning. There are winners and there are losers. Typically, there's one winner for a deal and 10, 20 other losers. That's the
Yep.
way that game is played, and that's what we do. But the core is helping our local industry. So There's a different, our main strategy is leveraging funding coming in from the state of Texas, the governor's office. They've got a buffet of different programs that we can utilize for our local businesses, our local, specifically those that are working, in this case, for helping or supplying some of our local manufacturers. And then also on the workforce training side, that's usually the biggest one.
Of course.
And what I love about workforce is we can also leverage some of our funds, our sales tax dollars that are used for recruitment of industry. We split that funding, and the other half we use it for workforce training. Reason being is you have to be able, in order to compete, you have to have a workforce, a labor force, and a talent pool that is constantly being upskilled. So that's what we do. We help with the workforce training, and to us, that's an investment on our human capital. We're investing in our people. So that money's not going anywhere. That money stays in our community by upskilling our local talent. And that talent is what attracts those other companies to come into our community.
Sure.
It's all about.
It's a full circle, right? It's a full circle. You're recruiting, and then once you get people here, it's about helping them be successful in whatever capacity. And like you said, those are the unsung hero part of GBIC, right? It's
all about
continuing.
connecting the dots.
Absolutely.
Just the way you're kind of talking and mentioning all this stuff. You're an economic developer yourself. I don't know if I've told you that before, but
well, thank you.
I don't know if it's a compliment or not, but
coming from you, it's a compliment.
You're like an economic developer.
Let's talk about the Greater Brownsville Tech District. That is a 86-acre campus. The groundbreaking took place in May.
Yeah.
It's designed to attract high-tech companies in robotics, cybersecurity, clean energy. It's also about talent retention, creating a space where young professionals can stay, work, and thrive. Everything we talked about, giving that kid a dream of, I want to go study at the best universities, but I have somewhere to come back and do. Talk to us about the Greater Brownsville Tech District, what it is, more than just where it is. I think people know it's on 550, but what's the vision? What's your dream there?
Okay. And like I said, you can be a very good economic developer. So that intersection of 511, SH 550, I-169 corridor, and Paredes Line Road has become our next emerging hotspot as it pertains to industry, to manufacturing, advanced manufacturing. The vision there, similar to the vision for the whole region, is for it to become what could potentially become the new center of the city, the hub for space, energy, tech, and AI. And when I say that, people will be kind of taken aback. And it's like, trust me, it's 10 years from now, you're going to take it for granted. But that's why it's called a vision. We're looking forward. So what we did back in May is we broke ground on the first 80-plus acres of a 750-acre master planned industrial and business park, which we're calling a district. And those first 80-plus acres, we already, 2/3 of that, we already have LOIs, letters of interest for that. The recent announcement that we had, which is just across from Paredes Line Road, those guys, they're coming in. And obviously, that's a huge name. That's already.
Can we say the name?
It's Project Mustang.
Perfect.
That is already attracting other major players to this park. So, and that in tandem with the North Brownsville Industrial Park that we have there, with our other recent announcement, which is a major supplier for one of our biggest corporations here. We talk about ecosystems. We just talk about that whole area now has become an emerging hotspot. A lot of eyes are looking at that. And when I say eyes are looking at that, it's not just people in Brownsville. I'm talking about foreign direct investment. When we're out there in Europe, a little bit in Asia, and knocking on doors and recruiting companies. That's what they're looking at. They're looking at where can they put their advanced manufacturing, their tech company at. And now we have an actual place to do that, and that's a Greater Brownsville Tech District.
So for the viewership that's watching, you're at, if you don't know where the station will, let's kind of just brain map this.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm driving from Brownsville, from HEB on 802, and I'm going towards
My HEB.
yeah,
It's my HEB.
my HEB también.
Word of mouth. What do we say?
That's
Power word of mouth.
That's
I'm
right.
telling you, man.
So I'm driving down and I'm going on Paredes and I pass 802 and I pass Morrison and I pass Alton Glore and then I see the big warehouse that used to be Titan Tires.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden I'm going in that little overpass and to my right, I start seeing a bunch of big buildings being built.
Mhm.
That's the North Industrial Park,
Yeah.
also GBICS.
Both
Correct.
to the left and to the right.
Well, I'm saying
That
that
whole
yeah,
area.
that area.
Mm.
And now I look to the left and I see this massive, like just stretch of right now, just property.
Mm-hmm.
That's 750
50
plus acres.
And growing.
And that is the North.
That's
That's
the
going to be
Greater
that's going to
Brownsville
be
Tech
a
District.
greater Brownsville Tech District.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're combining those two things, and now I finally hit 511, Toll Road 550,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have Project Mustang that's going to happen there,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's the map for people. Like that's the map, and you said you have 8 LOIs already.
We had 2/3 of
Two-thirds.
of
I'm
the
sorry.
first 80 plus acres. are
2/3 of the first
LOIs.
LOI. So, and then in the North Industrial Park, I don't like speaking in code. What can we say? The thing is, this is very challenging, but information is key, right?
Yeah.
So we do have a major supplier for SpaceX. I could
Mhm.
say that, right? We have a major supplier for SpaceX. Can we name that supplier? Or is that? I hate
to do
putting
this
you.
to you,
I
and I
hate
hate
putting
to
you on the
lose
spot.
to
I don't
viewers,
want to put the viewers, but you know what?
We always
We got to protect. We got to protect.
we work in project code names because the prospect and the client requires that
I got you.
until the very, very end.
I got you.
And it happened with Project Mustang, right? It got leaked, and
We want to make sure that we protect the integrity. We don't want to ruin any plans for
Mm.
Brownsville.
Yeah.
But it's a major supplier for a big
for
company
one of
that
our
we
big
have
companies, and
down here.
that's
So
one of I think a couple others that are following
That are
suit
here.
as well. Yeah.
so there's so for the viewership,
Mm.
I mean, there's some really big companies that are bringing some serious jobs. So there's a lot of opportunity, right? The key here was, what is GBIC? We bring jobs. We're bringing jobs,
Mm.
right?
I'll take it a step beyond that. We're bringing opportunity,
Yes.
not handouts.
No.
And opportunity. We're bringing opportunity.
Beyond opportunity, I really believe that innovation
Yeah.
for the world.
Yeah.
This is not innovation here. I've talked to a lot of people across the country. Even our own governor was down here saying that the future of Texas is in South Texas, and the future of South Texas is in Brownsville. And so that being said, I know that then what I love about you, Gilbert, and GBIC and your board of directors is that you're not selfish. A win for Brownsville is a win for Brownsville. That's a win for Brownsville.
Yeah.
So I know that we have, and I've heard that there's 2 private industrial parks that are also in talks of really kind of unloading here and developing in Brownsville. What can you share about that? That I know that they've sat and chatted with you, trying to figure out, is there opportunity there for us? Are we going to be? We don't want to be competitors. We want to work together. Is there room? Is there room for all of us?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. There's a series of questions there.
Sure.
Before I get to that, just to address the project names, we usually know we're having some kind of success when those names start getting leaked.
Sure.
So part of it is kind of the name got out already and we can't say much about it. But the other part about it is, well, you can't blame people for it, right? People are just excited to see this stuff coming into their town.
They want to be the first
Yeah,
to
so-
announce and the first to know. And people, I've talked to so many people. I knew about it 3 weeks ago, and they fight today. I knew about it 4 weeks ago. I'm like, well,
You know how many people have stopped me? It's like, hey, I heard about XYZ, boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, well, you know,
I can't talk
same
about
line,
it.
and they're like, I'm sangrón. Like, buddy, my hands are tight. But yeah, that just means people are antsy,
Sure,
and that just means people love their community,
and excited.
excited,
Mhm.
and that's what we do. We bring
Sure.
that opportunity in. So talking about that whole emerging, area, there's 2 other industrial parks, again, very, very preliminary, that are looking at that whole area as well. And this would be on the industrial side, because they're visionaries in their own regard, right? They see it, right? They see opportunity, yeah, obviously for themselves, but opportunity for the whole area.
For the region.
Both of those parks, they're being driven by, now I can say this, younger people than me, that want to make a difference in this area. And that's I've been in economic development for a little over 20 years. My first 10 years was actually here in Brownsville. Then I was in Central Texas for quite some time. Now that I've been back for 6 months, that's the one thing that I can tell you. The one big difference that I've seen is people have really embraced Brownsville today. People really want to make a difference, and people are really finding ways to, for instance, these individuals that are trying to launch some of these industrial parks, to take it upon themselves to make that difference. These are huge investments. Huge investments.
Sure.
They're taking a huge risk, but they said, we can do it. It's been done before. We have some ideas, and Brownsville needs this. Very different from years in the past.
Yeah, local people are also
Mhm.
taking a big risk. I mean, but I do believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's room for everyone. I mean, the growth of Brownsville is going to be so vast
Mm.
that we need whoever's
Mm.
willing to step up to the plate, right? Like we
Yeah.
can't wait for this type of growth and development. I think that we're behind. I think we're 98% full in warehousing space in the city of Brownsville, something like that. Like,
There's
and with all this new business coming in and interest and word of mouth, I mean, I do believe that there's room for everyone. I think that your 750 acres are going to get built a lot faster than any of us could ever
Mm.
dream of. These first 80, like I said, we're already 2/3 LOI. I think by the time that there's the first sign that there's some sort of structure,
Mhm.
phase 2 is going to be sold out and phase 3 is going to be sold out. I think I'm looking forward to that kind of development and continued talks
Yeah. I mean, we're
of
already
what's
looking
coming.
we're not just looking at phase 2 right now. We're looking at phase 2 and phase 3
Yeah.
simultaneously. I mean, we barely broke ground on this thing. We had our groundbreaking ceremony, great event.
And we're already
and we're internally, because well, I mean, phase 2, not just phase 2, but phase 3. Let's start getting that, done sooner than later, because the demand is there.
Yeah.
The demand is there. And right now, all eyes are on Brownsville. The SpaceXs and the LNGs are pulling a lot of people from 2 very different sectors. And then our latest announcement is pulling in a whole different set of eyes, which is tech and AI. SpaceX, obviously, everything having to do with space. And we just had our space
Sure.
symposium as well. A
Yeah.
lot of great activity
And
there.
you know what I think is cool about the Space Symposium is that I know that 2 years ago, it was kind of like a,
Hey, well,
it was like a, well, it's because
Mhm.
I went to it 2 years ago. I didn't know what I was going to. I just know that I love going to support.
Mhm.
And it was great. It was a lot of people, activity, fun. It felt like a big First Friday
Yeah.
feel.
Mhm.
But then you guys this year took it to another level. You added a symposium. You
Correct.
brought speakers. You
Mhm.
brought experts in that regard of space. And adding that kind of value,
Mm.
I think changes so
Yeah.
much the dynamic, right? It becomes a lot more, not just a festival, it becomes a festival kind of like South by Southwest. It's a
Yeah.
festival, but it's a festival with purpose. It's a
Yeah.
festival with information. It's a festival with a lot of information, right?
Mhm.
And I think that is super, super valuable.
Yeah. Um, It's getting ready to write down. You made me lose my train of thought.
That's okay.
Um, Before I get to the symposium, uh, all eyes are in Brownsville, space, energy. Um, the other component of that is, and with all the activity that we have, without getting political, it's, the whole tariffs thing.
Yeah.
That's also drawing a lot of activity our way. So we've got these major forces not seen before, where we're in a great position now to really, really take this place to a whole different level. Hence the symposium. So last year was a Space Fest, great event. From what I understand, was not here for it, but from what I understand, there was about 10,000 people that came out for it.
Oh no, yeah, it was
Yeah,
it was it was packed.
and SpaceX is a huge supporter of that because they see it, right? So what we did this year now is, and when I'll get to the vision here in a bit. So what we did this year is now let's add another component to it. The Space Fest, we saw what it is. We're gonna, working with the city, making it bigger now, and that's a community event. Come out here, see what the space industry is about. Get your kids excited about it, because people don't realize this. When they go and they see the food vendors, the space theme, and SpaceX will have some stuff there. People don't know, but what we're doing is we're getting in your kids' minds. Get them
That they
excited
live in the city of the future.
that
Yeah.
we need them to work
Sure.
or work at a SpaceX or other future space companies, or let's take it a step beyond that. We need them to become the president and CEOs of their own space companies that are going to be working side by side with a SpaceX or as a supplier to a SpaceX.
Sure.
All here in Brownsville. So that's the main strategy behind that. The tactics are Space Fest, and now the other one is a Space Symposium. So we said, you know what? Now let's add a little symposium, which is kind of like let's bring in some high-powered speakers to come in and speak to our community business leadership, but also to some of our students in STEMs or high school, some middle schools, university, as well as our college. And so they can now kind of get a sneak peek. We're gonna have a SpaceXer speaking there, also somebody from Firefly. Both of those individuals, the Firefly individuals from Brownsville, working at Firefly, which is similar to SpaceX but in a smaller scale in Austin. And then the SpaceXer is from the Valley, and they both have a great story to tell about how they came into their positions in those respective companies. And you see them and you're like, they look like us, they talk like us. They're people from here, from
Yeah,
Brownsville and from the Valley.
that could be me, right?
That could
You
be
got
me.
kids, you got students, you've got people saying
Mhm.
that could be me,
Yeah,
right? And that's powerful. That's the most powerful thing.
that-
And on top of the information that you receive, not only is it this is someone that I can be, but look at the information I'm able to receive, the opportunities that exist for me, the future that's coming,
yeah.
right? And you're hearing it from a different source, not just from us, right? And I think that
I
that's so
just
valuable.
I just wish something like that happened when I was a kid, right? Where
Sure.
you see somebody and you're like, I could be like that person.
Yeah.
Well, it's happening. It's happening. So that's what that symposium is about. And then we have Mr. Dodd, who is uh, he's a huge influencer, YouTuber, talks about space and rocket science, has a great relationship with SpaceX. Everyday astronaut. That's what his name or his nickname. And so we're expecting, or we've seen how a person like that can really connect
Sure.
to people that are not like dinosaurs like me, right? A much younger generation. Again, doing this to make sure that we have that pipeline of local talent
Mhm.
filled to the max for a SpaceX.
Yeah.
SpaceX is at 3,500 employees right now. And all indications are that they're going to continue to grow.
I've even heard numbers that they're gonna have 6,000 employees here soon, right? I mean, they're just crazy
Yeah.
numbers. I can't
Yeah.
verify that. I'm
And
just saying those are the rumor mills. That's the excitement of
Mhm.
Brownsville that is out there.
Yeah.
People say a lot of numbers out there, but it's like
Yeah.
if there's 3,500 employees and we've seen this kind of ripple effect and indirect job growth
Mhm.
creation, which is what you were talking
Yeah.
about, there's going to be so much more coming, so much more indirect jobs, so many more opportunities. I think it's going to be
So,
important,
yeah.
and
And
you
I'm
know,
glad you brought that up because, little disclaimer, I don't work for SpaceX
sure,
and I don't speak on behalf of SpaceX, but I advocate for my community.
correct,
And in discussions with them, they have said that in the next year, they plan to be, their investments are going to be bigger and they're going to have a lot more employees there. Is that unheard of, to see them here in the next 2 to 3 years to be at a much, much higher level of employment and investment and capacity? So what do we need to do? We need to get our local population. We just said it, people are taking it for granted. Like, no, don't, no. We need to do everything within our power to make sure that at least the majority of the people that work at a SpaceX are from this area. Uh, I'm selfish. I want everybody to be from Brownsville.
sure.
Others will say, well, they need to be from Cameron County. For a SpaceX or an LNG plant, their workforce catchment area is the entire Rio Grande Valley. They say, yeah, that's our workforce catchment area. So that's what we're doing. So that symposium coupled with a Space Fest in the second year now is our way of now making that event bigger.
Well,
And then may I?
go ahead.
I mean, you've had a lot of time
Sorry.
to ask questions. May I? So then next year, let's add another event. The vision there is to, I'm giving you a hard time, by the way.
It's okay.
The next step now, or the vision is, why can't this be the South by Southwest, but of space? There's nothing in the big book of rules that says we can't do that.
Mhm.
That's what we're doing. Let's baby steps, right? Next year we add something else, make it bigger. 5 years from now, we might be in a position where, like, okay, it's got that South by Southwest feel, but for space. Don't know what it's going to be called, but working with the city of Brownsville, that's the direction that we're moving in.
No, I think that's phenomenal. I mean, I was gonna say that I think that it's building the vision.
Mm-hmm.
What you guys are doing is building the vision. Like you said, you're salesmen, you're salespeople. You're going out across the world selling a vision of not just Brownsville today, of what Brownsville looks like in 10 to 15 years. And by doing symposiums like this and having the vision of saying, this is going to be like a South by Southwest, but of the future,
Yeah.
of robotics, of AI, of quantum, of space exploration,
Mm-hmm.
what that kind of takes, you are painting that vision for Brownsville, and I think it's very powerful. I want to recap kind of some of the things that we talked about today in our episode for some of our viewers. Obviously, we talked about GBIC,
Mm-hmm.
what it is.
Which, by the way, at some point in time here in the near future, we are going to go through like a name change
Okay.
because Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation, and I'm talking about like even corporate executives, site selectors, so on and so forth, externally, they look at us and they think we're a community development organization, which to a certain extent, I guess we are, right? But we need to find a way to work internally with our team to come up with a name that says we're in the economic development space. Don't know what it is, but I wanted to make sure I got that plug in there.
Good, and we
Mhm.
can't wait. I mean,
Mhm.
times are changing, right?
Yeah.
And this was a name that was given 25 years ago, around there when the inception of the Type A Corporation
Mhm.
was there, right? And I think that your vision and with your team is now in a completely different area. So we're excited to find out what that name is. We did talk about the fact that if you were in a third grade class, what is this Economic Development Corporation Type A do? We're trying to bring jobs. And I think you've made it very clear that the vision is to bring futuristic jobs, to bring the most exciting jobs, to bring the highest paying jobs, right? And that's exciting for us. We talked about the new and important Greater Brownsville Tech District, which is going to fit into this vision. We touched upon the North Industrial Park, which is booming with a lot of great stuff happening. Two new private industrial parks, and more importantly, the vision behind the Space Symposium and the future vision you have for that. So you guys have been very busy. You have an awesome team. Anything that anyone you want to thank, anything you want to say, anything before we end the show that we didn't talk about that you want to discuss, or things that you want to bring up?
No, I think we covered it all. I mean, like I said, you could be an economic developer. I think I'll leave you all with this, your viewers. Our time is now. Go out there and make a difference. That's the challenge. Our time is now. Don't sit back. I just mentioned several, local people, what they're doing to really take Brownsville to a whole different level. We can only do so much. We need our community, our brightest, to step up, our entrepreneurs to step up. Yourself, you said, you brought in, you've brought in investors, and visionaries. You're doing your part by doing that, in addition to your duty as a city commissioner. You're now really going way outside and saying, like, let me help with this. We need more of that. I'm not talking about yourself, but just everybody in general.
Right.
Everybody do your part. Our time is now. Strike while it's hot, and I see Brownsville, all eyes will be on Brownsville for the next 20 years. So let's get it done.
That's awesome. Guys, Gilbert Salinas, our CEO, we're so happy that you're back. I know that he was here. Like I said, we were able to reel him back from Central Texas. Strong leadership, super strong team over. If you haven't gone to visit them, they are go knock on their door. If you have opportunities, if you have anything, information that you need to do what he just said, to go out there and throw a fishing line for him, and then say, Gilbert, I need you to go close this deal.
Yeah, that's
right.
what we do.
They're at the Young House, right?
Correct.
They're at the
Young House.
They're at the historic
500
Young House,
St. Charles Street.
St. Charles Street. So that's their headquarters. Check them out online. See their projects. They come out with some great stuff. They have events here and there that they're going to be hosting. Keep your eye and tab on what they're doing, because they're going to grow really fast. And that tech district, I do believe, is going to fill up rather quickly. We're excited. Keep us posted on all your news. I know that there's, again, code names, but whenever the time is right, I would love for GBIC to be the one that breaks the news. And we do some really big unveiling information, even if the rumor's out there.
Yeah.
I think the unveiling is going to be very important for you guys. But Gilbert, thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate your time.
Shameless plug here. Follow us on @Greater Brownsville.
That's
our social media handle, and a lot of stuff starting to really, if you're able to kind of see some of that stuff on our social media, you're able to see what's in the pipeline for us and for this whole area, this whole region.
So @Greater Brownsville, the social media handle. That's Gilbert. Guys, thank you so much. Brownsville at Large. We'll see you on the next show.
Brownsville at Large, voices that shine, telling our stories one episode at a time. News, ideas, and local pride. Tune in now, come along for the ride.